Today, finally the day when all the nominations have to be in. 5 p.m. is that deadline tonight for the candidates to get in. Now, we've got a list of all the supporters for some of the big names who are leading the field, the Boris Johnsons and the like. According to the publicly revealed numbers, you've only got two supporters, two MPs backing you. You need 8 to get on the nominations list. Are you confident you've got those 8?
Yes, I am.
And
I'm looking forward to it. I'm very much looking forward to it. I've been putting forward my proposals. I've written to every MP with the set of my policies. I've had some very good feedback on it. We've got important hustings this week, which is a chance to set out my policy agenda, and in particular how I would propose that we leave the EU at the end of October. So I'm very much looking forward to this contest.
I mean, you've been, say, somewhat more hard-line than some other Brexiteers, talking about your willingness to do whatever you have to do, not ruling anything out when it comes to delivering Brexit. There are a lot of other Brexiteers in the running. There are some Remainers in the running who now claim to be Brexiteers. Are there any other of those leadership contenders that you would trust, if it's not you, that you would trust to deliver Brexit, given that you pulled out of the race back in 2016, believing that Theresa May would deliver Brexit? She promised to do so. She hasn't. Fingers burnt now. Who would you trust on that list?
Well, I'm backing myself. I mean, I believe I've got a very workable 3-step plan for a managed exit from the EU. I think really importantly, in order to have a credible negotiation, you always have to be prepared to walk away. I also think the end of October is the absolutely hard deadline. It's in our interests and in the EU's interest that we actually leave the European Union.
We'll go into your 3-step plan, and we were talking about all that, but I want to ask you about the big issues that have been debated over the weekend, dominated the news, particularly Michael Gove and drug taking. You've said that you have smoked cannabis when you were at university. Of course, his confessions involve a Class A drug and much later in his time. Do you think that using Class A drugs, or using any drugs at all in breach of law, do you think that actually rules people out of the right to lead this country? Does it make them unfit for public office?
Well, I think there is a very serious issue around drugs and frankly drug crime in this country. I'm an absolute advocate of keeping strict laws around drug taking. Of course, there are so many victims, those who get caught up in it. There's problems with human trafficking, with knife crime, gang crime, county lines problems. So I'm absolutely clear we need to keep our strict laws.
Even though you broke those laws?
Well, yes. I mean, I tried.
Caught.
Yeah, exactly. I tried cannabis at university. I deeply regret it. I'm not proud of it at all. But actually, since then, as an adult, I have discovered the very real impact that cannabis taking can have on your mental health in particular, and particularly since cannabis is now very often so much stronger than it was quite a long time ago when I was 19, 20. And so it's a really important issue that young people need to be aware of, that it can seriously damage your mental health. Of course, there is another side to cannabis, which is medicinal cannabis. I do think it's important that we enable people to access it for particularly relief of symptoms when it's under strict medical supervision. So, yeah, I'm not proud of it, and I certainly think we need to stick to our very strict laws.
OK, another issue that's reared its head this weekend is the Foreign Secretary Jeremy Hunt being asked about abortion laws. He said that he would like, as a personal issue, as a matter of conscience, he would like the abortion limit to be reduced from 24 weeks to 12 weeks. What do you make of that policy?
Well, I'm absolutely pro-choice. I think it's vital that women must be able to decide what happens to their bodies. My personal view is that the time limit for abortion should reflect the science, so the point at which a baby becomes viable, and that would be my personal view. But certainly the whole issue of abortion is a very deep ethical issue that for every MP, should that come up as a piece of legislation, each MP would need to look very carefully at their conscience. And certainly as leader of the party, as Prime Minister, I would not be seeking to change the legislation right now.
OK, well, let's come on to what your 3-step plan is for Brexit, because Brexit's dominating the issue. And again, you made it to the final 2 last time round as a leading Brexiteer. What is your plan?
Well, I think we have to, first of all, accept we're leaving at the end of October. It's in our interest.
No ifs,
and
no
theirs.
buts.
No ifs, no buts. It's a hard red line. Secondly, we have to accept that the withdrawal agreement bill is dead. We've tested it to destruction in Parliament. Parliament will not vote for it. So what I'm proposing is 3 steps. One is that we introduce legislation before summer recess, so very urgently when the next Prime Minister takes over, to effectively protect citizens' rights in the UK and with an offer to protect UK citizens in the EU if the EU agree to that. And secondly, another bill that would put in place sensible measures that will protect all of us. So things like the future for Gibraltar, for our sovereign bases, for what happens to goods already in circulation at the point of exit, for air transport and so on. So in effect,
a lot of this stuff's already there, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So it's already been agreed in the withdrawal agreement. But of course, because Parliament won't accept the withdrawal agreement in its entirety, what I am proposing is that instead we take elements of it and we put forward UK legislation. That's step 1. Step 2 is to ramp up preparations for no deal, because we're leaving at the end of October, so we do need to be ready in all circumstances, to ramp up preparations for a virtual border in Northern Ireland, and thirdly, to prepare a temporary free trade arrangement so that we can offer that to the European Union. And all of that needs to be in a very transparent way. One of the big problems we've had has been the kind of secret squirrels, so that nobody knows what's going on. It's upset business. It's certainly upset Parliament. So I would want people to be openly discussing our preparations. And then the third step is, over summer recess, over August, is going to meet with a ministerial delegation, the EU heads of state, our key allies, so like Leo Varadkar from the Republic of Ireland, Angela Merkel in Germany, Emmanuel Macron in France, to actually put to them, number one, we must now leave. You don't want us to hang around. We don't want to hang around. And secondly, here is a raft of measures that it would be very simple for the EU to accept, and for then the UK to put into legislation by the end of October.
Without a big climb down by
Exactly. And then that would culminate in a summit in September in Belfast, where I would invite the proposed new EU commissioners, who are proposed but not yet confirmed, plus EU heads of state, a UK-led summit, to agree, first of all, we're definitely leaving at the end of October, and second of all, the sensible measures that we're now going to all seek to put in place before then.
Do you agree with Boris Johnson that we shouldn't be paying most of that £39 billion unless we did actually get an agreement that suited us?
Well, there's a very technical answer to that, which is that without the withdrawal agreement bill, there is no legislative means to pay £39 billion to the EU. So, of course, as a member of it, we continue to make our contributions to the budgets. But once we're out of the EU, we would need to put in place an arrangement by which we can pay them what we owe them. Now, of
but
that
it's nothing
39,
close to 39.
No. I mean, of that 39 billion, potentially about half of it was money that was going to pay our net contributions through the implementation period. So if there's no IP, then that money's not owed. So that's roughly 20 billion. Roughly 10 billion plus of it is money that we genuinely owe, that's for programmes and training programmes and investments through the European Investment Bank and so on, things that we genuinely owe. And of course, as a very important global player, we always meet our international obligations. So that money would, of course, be forthcoming. So it would be a new calculation and would require new legislation.
President Macron, of course, has said it would be like, not paying your sovereign debt.
But of course, we would pay our sovereign debt.
Would you be willing to work with Nigel Farage, the Brexit party?
No, I mean, I think one of the problems in the last 3 years is that we've not talked enough to other political parties to get their support. So I would be willing to talk to other political parties. But of course, the Brexit party has no members of Parliament, so their involvement would be less core.
You wouldn't have
than
Nigel
opposition.
Farage in your Brexit negotiating
No,
team?
I wouldn't. No, I mean, I understand the frustration of people who voted for the Brexit party because the main political parties have failed to deliver Brexit. What I want to do is to get on and deliver for them so that we're out by the end of October.
Is there time for us to prepare properly for a no deal by the end of October? It's just, if you were elected, it wouldn't be in office until, 22nd, 23rd of July at the earliest. We'd be looking at just 3 months, really, before that date. Has enough been done to prepare for no deal so far? We know that Philip Hammond, the current Chancellor, put the brakes on a lot of that preparation. But has enough been done so that, is there enough time to deliver a Brexit, an orderly exit on WTO terms? Even people like me, I'm perfectly happy for there to be no deal, but there needs to be an orderly exit. Have we got enough done?
So, yes, we have. I have sat on the Cabinet subcommittee looking at day one readiness. And actually, in the run up to March the 29th, significant improvements had already been made. It would have been more of an ouch than if we were leaving at the end of October.
So it will be bumpy for a bit?
Well, you know, it could be in certain key areas, but the big challenge by the end of March was that certain systems weren't quite ready to go. By the end of October, they certainly could be. But I do want to be clear here, I am not an advocate of a no-deal Brexit. I'm proposing a managed exit that would lead to a smooth, managed exit out of the EU with lots of different measures in place that are sensible for the UK and for the EU to have agreed by then. And my plan can be legislated for between now and then. It would require legislation to be introduced before the House rises for the summer, so in that last week of July, and then during the summer to go and negotiate with the EU. But all of those steps can be taken by the end of October.
Again, big question marks, but whether with the Remain supporting Parliament, 75% Remain supporters, you could get that through. We've already had threats, not just from Remainers on the opposition benches, but even some Remainers on your own benches, the likes of Dominic Grieve, possibly even the current Chancellor, Philip Hammond, to vote to revoke Article 50. What would you do then? Would you be willing to prorogue the House of Commons, basically suspend sittings to push Brexit through?
No, I think, having been leader of the Commons for 2 years, I'm very familiar with the parliamentary arithmetic.
And indeed with John Bercow.
Indeed. And the need to collaborate closely across party. I do think the majority of MPs, in fact, do accept the need to deliver on the will of the people and leave the EU. I do believe that a managed exit would be attractive to people. To protect the rights of EU citizens and UK citizens in the EU, for example, is a top priority for many. So I would expect that colleagues would support the idea of a managed exit. Certainly a majority of them would. In terms of being able to stop a no-deal exit, the reason for the Cooper-Bowles bill, which required the extension of Article 50, the reason that was able to go through was on the back of a business of the House motion, which itself was the result of the EU Withdrawal Act. So actually that was a very particular, unique legislative means to do that.
There wouldn't be the legislative opportunities to do it.
There wouldn't be the opportunities to do it, in my opinion.
Are you, just finding, very briefly if you would, are you convinced that we are going to leave the European Union, whoever is leader of the Conservative Party, on October the 31st?
Well, I do have concerns that some of my colleagues advocate just let's leave with no deal, and I would be concerned about what Parliament might do in those circumstances to try and scupper that. And, there's obviously the risk of a no confidence motion in the government if colleagues on my side of the House were to join in that. So I think a no deal Brexit as a policy could be quite high risk. On the other hand, I think extending Article 50 or potentially not leaving the EU at all is a disaster for our democracy and for the pact that we have between politics and the people. For me, we have to leave the European Union at the end of October in all circumstances. And by the way, in order to have a successful negotiation in business, you have to be prepared to walk away. If you're not prepared to walk away, then the other side of the negotiation just has you. They can do what they want because they know when it comes down to it, you're not going to walk away.
Okay, Andrea Leadsom, a former leader of the House of Commons, one of the leadership contenders today. You're going to be formally nominating, and by 5 o'clock today. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thanks, Julia.
Here at Talk Radio.